We watch the TE date. If we see anything, we try to get them in and get them processed where they can get to the parole board. There has to be a real short sentence for that to happen. But I didn't say it didn't happen, but if we know the TE date is on that inmate's coming, we try to get him into the system and make sure he's processed where he can go to the parole board.
Okay, thank you. Representative Wright, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate your presentation. I saw it on Monday when you presented it in Little Rock, and I have to say it's very alarming. My question is for Board Member Watson. So you said a couple of weeks ago publicly that you don't think the state needs 3,000 prison beds. But looking at this presentation where we're at today with 19,400, and looking at where the projection is going to take us in 10 years to 25,173, that's a delta of over 5,700 beds. Can you please help me understand, do you disagree with these projections, or do you have a different set of math that we're not seeing?
No, I think most of my focus of the letter that I sent to the committee was about the fastest way we could add beds. I didn't refute or state we didn't need 3,000. I don't think we do today. We're going to in the very near future, and that's going to grow. But the point of my communication was to try to focus on bringing the beds in that we can bring online the fastest, possibly through community corrections, through reentry, through adding the 500 beds. The A&E work had already been done up at Calico Rock, or North Central. But no, there's no doubt we're going to need more beds. Okay. The only thing that could change that would be for us to change our criminal laws so that our sentences are less harsh.
Well, your response is interesting because the quote that you gave to Arkansas Advocate was, quote, "Our needs don't support a 3,000 bed facility when the county jail backup is 1,600. So that directly conflicts with what you said publicly just a couple of weeks ago.
Today, we do not need 3,000 beds. That was my point.
But we can't build a prison today. As you know, it takes, there's a long runway on that.
Sure.
So it's sort of pointless whether we need it today or not. The question that we should be asking is, are we going to need it in 3 years? Are we going to need it in 5 years? Are we going to need it in 10 years? I mean, you know that.
But we also need to be talking about what kind of beds we need. There's prison beds, and then there's, the community corrections facilities. There are other ways to get to what we need and address what the department needs. And just throwing a 3,000 bed facility isn't necessarily what the department needs today, if you could make one fall out of the sky.
So your contention is, out of the over 5,700 projected additional prisoners we're going to have over the next 10 years, that we're not going to need 3,000 state prison beds?
Eventually we will. Yeah, and that's my idea for any new prison that we build would be that it be designed with the idea that initially it would be a 1,000 bed facility, and then as we could get funding, and if the trends continue, we could add another wing of 1,000 and then another, just like you see done at schools and nursing homes and other facilities that house large numbers of people.
Okay, well that's not what you said in the paper, so I appreciate you clarifying.
All right. Lindsay, let me ask you one question. The Arkansas Protective Act, is that act going to increase or decrease the number of incarcerations in Arkansas, or the rate of recidivism? How's it going to play into the number of people we incarcerate?
So
is it going to increase that number?
Yes, Ms. Ware prepared the impact assessment for that bill whenever it was proposed, and I think she had a little bit of information on the slides in there. Yeah, if you want to, I'd love to let Wendy specifically answer.
Yeah, it is projected to increase the prison population 1,500 to 2,000. Once fully phased in and stacked up, but that's 2040 to 2045.
So really, passing the PROTECT Act wasn't really a strong deterrent to preventing crime.
Not currently.
Not currently.
I,
You know, there's an old saying, you can kill a fly with a sledgehammer. It's not about the fly, it's about those flies watching. We don't have a real deterrent, even with this PROTECT Act, according to what you're saying.
Mr. Chair, and to the committee, I want to say, Protect Arkansas has some provisions for repeat offenders. And repeat offenders is what is really hurting the counties, hurting the county jails. We got in people coming to us for the 4th time, 6th time. And it shows on her graph, that's a new commitment. It's not that because he's been there. So I'm in more of a belief that because of the repeat offenders getting more time, that eventually, because they're going to do the time anyway. It's just whether they're going to do it at once or whether they're going to do it, you know, in installment plan. So I'm in the belief that because of the provisions of Protect Arkansas to have some kind of effect on repeat offenders, I think it will be a deterrent. I'm the type of person that not only visit with the staff, but also visit with inmates. And inmates will tell you, basically, 7 years breaks, runs a man, 12 years breaks the man. So what they're trying to say is 7 years at one time, guess what? They're ready to go home. I didn't say everybody, but a large majority of them. A lot of times what we do, or the courts do, because of the way the sentencing is and the years, a 10-year sentence, and they're going home in 2 years. They're not doing the 10 years. But if they, before Protect Arkansas, they had many opportunities of that 10 years. This time, they're not going to have that opportunity. That's what she's actually saying. It's going to increase the beds, but I'm not real sure at some point it's not going to decrease the growth, because it's not going to be the same guy coming back 4 or 5 times, because he's already going to be there. He's not going to be out doing more crimes. And I think that a lot of the sheriffs that are testifying next will tell you that they're very glad the Protect Arkansas addressed the repeat offenders, and it does.
And
Can you tell me, Benny, it's been a long time, so, well, Governor Hutchinson carried out some death executions. But how many do we have on death row now, Dexter?
25.
We only have 5 on death
20,
row?
25.
25 people on death row. Why are there, let me tell you, they already appealed, their appeals run out?
I'm not certain what the number is, Mr. Chairman, but I have my chief counsel here if you have any specific questions. I think the specific holdup has been that we have not been able to obtain any of the lethal execution drugs.
Well, I understand that, that's what we've been working on it for a long time, but we have other means of execution besides those lethal drugs. We passed a nitrogen bill this year that was now, I understand, is being held up in court, which will always be the case when you have liberal judges around. But there are people sitting down there who have committed multiple murder and have been sitting there for 20 years. That's too long. That's too long for the Arkansas taxpayers to be paying after they have killed whole families. You understand what I'm saying? Back close down where I live, there was a guy named Judge Parker. He cleaned up a lot of that, but he did it swiftly. And let me bring up one more thing to the committee here. And you may not be aware of this. During the votes, during that last session, during the votes of the prison appropriation, We had a couple of cases of extortion to a sitting senator who I talked to. We will not tolerate that. Extortion is a felony. When someone comes in and threatens a senator of depriving him of tax dollars and grant money for his district, if he doesn't vote a certain way, that won't be tolerated. And I talked to one of those individuals myself, and it happened. I'm not gonna name any names, but I just want you to know right now, that kind of stuff is in Washington. If we're gonna do it here, let's just put DC over the doors of the state capitol of Arkansas. Because that's wrong. We represent the people, we're not gonna be extorted. So any other questions?
I got a question.
Mr. Petty, you have a question? You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this probably goes back to Ms. Ware, but talking about deterrent, and maybe the sheriffs will talk about this in the next session, but I had heard the statistic of about 40,000 unserved felony warrants that are currently not served because of a lack of prison space. Now it may not be a direct deterrent, but that does speak to unserved warrants and felony criminals on the streets because they haven't been served because of space. Do you or any of the others know about that statistic as far as unserved felony warrants?
It's outside our scope of work.
Okay, maybe the sheriffs can talk about that then. So, and Brian, do you?
I got it.
Oh, you got mine. Okay.
So to answer the question,
You're recognized.
thanks, Mr. Chairman. The incarceration rate, we have like the second or third highest incarceration rate in Barrington. That's not your issue. But, I mean, high incarceration rates obviously don't always equal lower crime. I mean, there is more issues that's going on with some of these counties that are not controlling the crime part on the front end because, as I say, the cost part of these repeat offenders that's not being focused on, not your fault, but once you arrest somebody, it costs money. Then you incarcerate them until the jail date or they bond out. Then they have a court date, that costs money. If they have a public defender, they cost money. So every time we keep having arrests, and if you look at, the guy on Fox News the other night said, more policing, and that's why we need to be on the proactive side, which is not your part. But the biggest thing I have is we need increased beds. I said that in 2017 when I filed the other bill, and I think Chairman Magnus remembers that. And I said at the time, we are not funding enough. And at that time, I tried to get Governor Hutchinson and the rest of the legislators, which we passed the bill out of the Senate, to take the Amazon tax, which was voluntarily being remitted. We would have had a dedicated revenue stream back then. We're going to have a dedicated revenue stream on the front end. So this high incarceration rate is going to automatically solve the lower the crime rate. It's certainly not true. Okay. The second part is back to the cost, and I'm big on this thing of like once we get into this thing with these mega prisons, you start spending 50, 100 million, you're sunk. Utah was going to build 4,000 bed prison for 1.3 billion. They're not even close to that. Or Alabama. Utah never made it. They can't staff their mega prisons. It's 5 miles from Salt Lake City Airport. So, it's the bigger things of looking down the road. So the original figure we gave in 2013, and I knew this in 17 was never going to work, Senator Gilmore all gave and the governor, that we were going to build 3,000 beds for $456 million. That's $156,000 per bed. Never happened. Were any of you involved in those figures that came up that threw out those original figures to everybody and misled everybody? You were not involved in it.
No.
Okay.
Absolutely
so that goes
not.
back to Fury again, that obviously somebody gave that figure. If you look at Utah and Alabama, or Utah, it's well over 300,000. If we build a 1,000-bed prison, like we were talking about, and you spend $800 million, that's $800,000 per bed. It's so economically not feasible, and we can't afford that. So that's why I'm big on like whatever decision we make has to be looked at. But none of you were involved in the process of giving those original figures of the 456 million, or consulted, talked about, or anything.
that correct?
If I may, just a little bit. So it was, I believe, whenever Secretary Porfiry was still here with the department, and I believe he used a consultant to design what they called a program. I don't think there was ever actual any architectural, it was like a conceptualized budget, was my understanding of it.
Yeah.
So that's what my understanding of it
That's a
was.
complete failure. And then he came up with later, I think, $5 million for a site prep on the consultant part that they came up with. If you look at Fort Smith, if you have to go get water from there, they said it's going to cost $250 million. If we have to revamp these systems to get water in this location, you're talking about spending so much money. That's why it's so important, and I'm trying to get to this and trying to get everybody to understand about why it's so early, is we have a site preparation, it's gonna cost you $250 million for the site prep before you even build one cell. And you have one other spot that's $50 million. I mean, it's like, that's why it's so important to get all this right, and it's very hard when Veneer will not answer questions. Do you have any sway with Veneer? Are you guys paying Veneer, or where is this money coming? Because I feel like they need to meet with the people. Do you think they need to meet with us?
The contract is with the Board of Corrections, and isn't that correct,
Yes, sir.
Linda? That's
It's
what
with
I
the
think.
department, yes, sir.
So, you know, I'll talk to Veneer again and try to make sure they meet with you and Senator Stubblefield. But one thing about construction of a prison, and I know Dexter's would be quick to answer this, it's the cost is the hardening of the beds. Whether it's gonna be barracks, or whether it's gonna be 2-man cells, 1-man cells, all that has a different, whether you just throw up a metal building, and, you know, a big one metal building, and put people in there, it has a whole different cost. And I know that Mr. Payne, because of our population, how it's being different, he would love to have more 2-man cells, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's correct. We need more seals.
And that costs more money than building a prison with barracks. I want to make another statement. When y'all's talking about money, we've had increases in our budgets, and we're very appreciative of what we do get by the legislature and the governor. And also, we have to say that we also want to thank the governor for being a person that will consider giving us money for beds, because this system is not going to be able to stand very much longer if we don't get some beds. I was on the Board of Corrections when we talked 3,200 beds backed up in the county jail. They will never let that happen again, I don't think. I don't think the county sheriffs, they want to help with, you know, us picking up a parolee or something to get him out of the community helps them. But there's a limit to how many they can hold. And there's a limit to how many we can hold because of federal requirements. The very next thing, I'm gonna put this microphone up, I'll walk back in the audience. It was said a while ago, and I'm gonna say it again, because a lot of y'all don't hear it. The Board of Corrections, it was designed and made to manage and operate the prison system. State of Arkansas is in the top 5. Again, I'm gonna refer to Dexter. How well it's operated, how clean it is, the whole gamut. We're in the top 5 in the nation. We run our prison system cheaper than any other state in the United States. In 2024, I believe, and 23, we were the cheapest in the United States. So if we're fortunate enough to get more money to build other prisons or to operate it, I think you'll see the same kind of reaction of trying to operate the beds as effectively as we can from the Board of Corrections.
So, and I understand that, but one thing, so Veneer is, Ms. Wallace, Mr.
Yes.
Payne, you're gonna make sure that Veneer meets with us. I mean, it's not fair they take our tax dollars and then they fly and trying to do whatever they need to do. I mean, this thing that we're even paying them on some things to find out water, we've got plenty of, y'all been around a while, we got plenty of resources that they don't even need to be working us on. But, you know, if they're gonna cash our taxpayer dollars, they need to be meeting with the people, and at least have enough character to do so. You're gonna double check and make sure that happens?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Wait a minute, we'll talk to him. Ryan, I will talk to him, okay? The first time you requested it, you remember, I told you to hold off because I couldn't go with you. Remember?
I remember.
Okay, so let me talk to him.
Hey,
That's been a month ago.
hey,
Yeah.
that's enough. We're gonna shut it down right now. We're gonna move on to the Association of Arkansas Counties. I just want to tell you one thing. I've checked with a couple of companies in Arkansas. I mean, I know this veneer is, building prisons is a niche. It's kind of, you know, not everybody does it. But Nagels have told me they can do it. Baldwin's told me they can do it. There's been a number of companies in Arkansas that says they can do it. Now, I know some of you are going to disagree with that, but we've got people, if we've got people in construction companies here in this state, why wouldn't we hire them to build $1 billion prison?
Because they have to bid on it. They did not bid, Baldwin didn't bid, which shocked me. But they have to bid on it. They have to be a part of the process. And
Have you already taken the bids from Veneer?
we had 3 people bid for what what veneer is called is an owner's rep. Out in the free world, it's called a construction manager. A project this size really does need what is called an owner's rep. And, but even when we had 3 applicants and veneer was chosen by committee, when we went to get the construction company, we did not have the bidders that we thought we needed. But we did select Navajo's and what's it?
J.E. Dunn.
J.E. Dunn, which Navajo's is a big contractor in Arkansas, but J.E. Dunn's a big prison contractor in the United States, so.
Are these no backup bids where you get it? They're gonna, once they file a bid, they can't back up on it.
No, I can't back up.
Okay. All right, thank you. Appreciate y'all coming. Thank you, Dick.
Yes. Hey, 23 is that death row number, 23.
23. All right, thank you. All right, we're gonna move on to the Association of Arkansas Counties. With the impact of crowds, public safety. Those of you who are gonna testify for the counties, come forward. Sorry about that, we're going with the sheriff. Mr. Bradley, I think we'll just start with you. If you want to recognize yourself, tell us where you're
I was afraid
from.
you'd say that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for allowing us to come speak today and having your meeting down here with the counties and keep everybody informed. I'm Scott Bradley. I'm the director of the Arkansas Sheriff's Association.
I'm Jay Cantrell, serve as the Washington County Sheriff. Thank you.
I'm Hobie Runyon, Sheriff of Sebastian County, my senator.
John Staley, Lonoke County.
Sean Holloway, Benton County Sheriff.
All right, who wants to, you're recognized, who wants to start off?
Thank you, Senator. Senators and reps, thank you for having us. We will try and keep ours a little bit shorter. You have honestly talked about a lot of the things we would have talked about. There are a couple of points that we would like to make briefly, I hope. We heard about where we're ranking on violent crime, which we all know that. You all know that, and it should, it's kind of appalling. Right now, things are going to change, but right now, we're looking at some 10-year sentence. We're looking at 2 months. I'm sorry, 2 years. Less than 2 years on a 10-year sentence. And, you know, we know that's going to change, but that's where we're at right now. I think there's some ideas about who's in jail or prison and who's not. I can assure you, there's not very many misdemeanors kept around this state because we can't keep them, which one of the other sheriffs will speak on. Since 2016, we've actually added, as sheriffs, over 3,000 beds. We've added those because we had to, and we end up taking that backlog. Today, we've got almost 1,900, which are state prisoners that committed state crimes that were convicted in court to state prison, and we're keeping them, and we don't have a choice. Never once have we ever had a choice about whether we would keep a state prisoner. A prison can shut down a wing. They can say, hey, we're not going to staff it. We can't staff it, so we're just not going to open it. We don't have that option. They're pushing all of that liability, and I mean the state. I'm not trying to pick on them. I think we're all on the, we definitely all want the same thing, but the bottom line is we've never been able to tell someone that we weren't going to keep that state prisoner, but yet we have increased liability, increased lawsuits. We have more inmate on inmate crime, more inmate on deputy crime, more deputy on inmate crime, more assaults. I mean, it goes on. And so we don't have a choice. So we're not a lot of sympathy on that end from your sheriffs, because we don't have a choice. I've been 25% down on deputies during COVID, and I was still keeping my state prisoners. I know that everything's going to change. This Protect Arkansas Act, it is going to change things. As the sheriffs, we feel like before we ever turn one shovel of dirt, whether it's in, it doesn't matter where it's at, we're going to be 5,000 down. There's no way we cannot be. So what happens then? Because we have bought that cart before we got a horse to pull it. We're going to have people backed up everywhere, and we're bursting at the seams right now. Just for my own county, we have Veterans Court, we have Drug Court, we have Mental Health Court, we have DWI Court, we have Hope Court, we have Rise Court, we have, did I say Mental Health Court? And we've got every alternative you can. We've got a PAC Act, which is peer recovery. We've got increased electronic monitoring. We've increased signature bonds on low-level felonies, which would have never happened. And I think that we have to have some pathway out of this. I think that as sheriffs, as law enforcement, there's about 7 steps that I think, Senator, you both alluded to. Whether we arrest someone, we hold them in jail, they go to trial, it all adds up. We don't have any control over that. We bring them in, we can arrest them. After that, we hold them until they go to trial, and we hold them until the state calls for them. We don't have any control over that, and I understand there's a lot of frustration, and we're right there at the forefront of it. I think that our message, ultimately, is that we need more bed space. We need more bed space. I mean, we're doing everything we can. In my county, what I told you I was doing, it's the same thing all over the state. Every one of those saves a couple of beds, but we fill them right back up. And so, please, what I'm asking is, I don't care where it's at, how big it is, we need more bed space. And whether that's dollars or whether that's separate locations, I don't know what that is. But I'm asking you, please, the wheels they haven't come off yet of our criminal justice system, but they are wobbling really hard. I've been doing this for 35 years, and it scares me. And with that, I'll take questions and pass the mic.
Well, Mr. Runyon, I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you that a lot of counties are overcrowded, but I checked with some counties before I came. One county had 40 extra beds, another one had 15, another one had 25. There was a number of counties that had 50 beds or less, open beds. So they're not all full.
I think
not all the counties are full, but I understand that a lot of them are.
A lot of them are. We transport people all over the state. I mean, we have a network of different counties that will take our state inmates. And we're very selective about who we can take, because if we send somebody that's going to be nothing but problems for them, they won't take anymore. But you're right. I mean, that's a valid point. But at the same time, these are state prisoners. They're state inmates that have committed crimes in the sovereign state of Arkansas. Sebastian County's not sovereign. I mean, they should be in prison.
But you look at, the counties I called had passed sales tax and increased sales tax, built their own jails.
Some did, yes, sir, you're
Some
right.
did, and those are the ones that had the empty beds.
Fill them up.
The counties that, like Sebastian County, you're one of the higher rates as far as, you know, putting people in jail.
Yes, sir.
Like Pulaski and Jefferson, some of the other counties. Those are the ones that Senator King was talking about. Because I called the ones that had passed countywide sales tax, and they had almost all of them had empty beds.
Did y'all try to pass the tax?
So,
I think there's truth in that. At the same time, though, we're pushing back state inmates on the counties. We have no business doing it. I would love to have a tax, but at the same time, if we went in Sebastian County and said, hey, we need $80 million to build a new jail and they are not, that's not palatable to our citizens, not at all. And so is it our responsibility? Today I had 34% of my jail population are state inmates today. It's been up to 45, down to 26, but it varies.
They'll be full.
And they will be full. You know, it's a matter of what they can handle. We take them every week. We're taking people all over the state.
how many deputies do you think you'll lose if a prison is built close to you and those guards are being paid $75,000 instead of what you're paying?
If they were paid $75,000, we would probably lose a large percentage, not only of the jail staff, but of the law enforcement staff, because that's more than most of our people make.
Whatever county surrounded.
Sure, Franklin, Logan, Scott, no.
So
That's valid.
those people would be less safe because they have less law enforcement.
No, we would still get people, I think. There's a lot of people that don't want to work for the state that, I've got probably 6 former ADC employees that work for me because they chose to. They've done both.
Representative Brady, you have a question?
I do, thank you, Mr. Chair. So my question is for Mr. Bradley. At one point, I think we had a committee meeting and you presented a list of all of the counties that had either expanded their jails or built new jails in response to the state year after year sending their state inmate overflow down into the county jails. Do you have any updated numbers on how many that might be?
I could probably get those for you from one of the attorneys back here. I don't have it with me, but I can give you the numbers. How many beds do you think we've added? Did you say we added over?
Over 3,000.
10 years.
We've added over
10 years.
3,000.
Across the state?
Yeah, it's across the state, and I can get the breakdown if you'd like to have that. I'm sorry,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. But I was gonna say that the counties who are not full will be. It's just a matter of time, and it does fluctuate some, and there are a few, and the sheriffs do try to manage their facilities depending on what's going on in their counties. So, but they will fill up eventually. We've got over 40,000 felony warrants out there right now that need to be served, could be served at any time, and over 143,000 misdemeanor warrants that we can't serve. Now, but I'll let John talk about that because we have no place to put them. That's a big part. And I'm sorry, sir.
That's okay. The other part of my question is it fair to say that when a county has to build a new jail or do a significant expansion of their jail, typically they have to raise a tax or levy a tax to do that? Is that fair?
That is very fair and absolutely true. Now, two of the sheriffs here that are sitting on this panel tried to raise the taxes, tried to run a bill. I'm gonna let Sean and Jay talk about that, which neither one of them passed.
So I just think it's ironic that you threw out that 3,000. You said over the last several years, the counties have collectively had to add 3,000 county jail beds because the state has neglected to add 3,000 state prison beds. And in many cases, they're having to raise taxes to do it. So I think as legislators, we just need to keep in mind that when we continue to kick the can down the road and don't figure out ways to solve problems, that what we're doing ends up raising taxes on a lot of our citizens.
Okay, you want to get a good segue for you, Sean?
Once again, I'm Sheriff Holloway here in Benton County. A lot of stuff we've heard today, I don't want to go back over that, but there's something else you guys need to consider. We can have alternative programming and sentencing and all these other things, but right now we have a broken criminal justice system, and that starts at the bottom of district courts with misdemeanors. Right now, our misdemeanor system is totally broke. That is our first line to change a person's behavior so that they don't become a future felon. Right now, that is just not happening. This county, it's a large county, we have 4 district courts here. One of our courts on an average right now is having 15,000 plus failure to appears a year. So no one is coming to court because they know there is no consequence for an action. So this problem, no one ever talks about the misdemeanor justice. That is going to create a bigger problem for us in the future with felons. If we ever can add on to our jail, you know, it's going to be full. But right now, I can't even hold misdemeanors. This backup, I don't know what the total backup of what you said, Scott, on the total.
Over 18,000.
1,800.
1,800, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
1,800. 1,800.
It's 1,800, 1,900 right now.
But anyway, that's something we need to consider. Like they were talking, we tried to pass a tax over years ago and it lost by 60%. Bad time to do it, but no one wants more taxes. We've tried to do every solution we can with all the alternatives, but at the end of the day, like my jail is one of the larger jails in the state. At any given point, I have 120 to about 80 state inmates waiting on a bed. I could use those beds right now for misdemeanor justice. I just can't do that. Judges will sentence people, what happens, and it's very expensive. I don't know what the cost for the taxpayers is. So if someone gets arrested, they don't show up for court, they get an FTA warrant, it gets entered to the system. All the people it takes to get into the system, they get, with law enforcement again, they get rearrested. We bring them in, they get cited out and walked out and they're given a new court date, and we do this over and over and over. It's not unusual for people in this county on a single charge to have 50 to 70 FTAs on that single charge. So there's got to be an expense. I don't know what it is, but it's not cheap, and it's bogging down our system.
It's today. That's today. It's 1895 today.
Yeah. Oh, you're recognized.
Thank you. Sheriff Holloway, thank you for your report. In speaking with one of our district judges, he mentioned that, you know, of course, if you have like a domestic abuse violations, a misdemeanor, they get arrested, they get booked, they get let out, right? He said that they would have to miss court up to 7 times before they could be jailed.
That would be correct, depending on the current situation of the jail. So we got to understand, from a constitutional standpoint, as a sheriff, I'm required to hold felons, not misdemeanors. So when one of my circuit court judges sentences 10 people to the state prison, I've got to make 10 bed openings that misdemeanors are holding. That's why it's not working.
And it's also true, I think I've heard our Attorney General say that misdemeanors become felons over time.
Absolutely. I guarantee you every felon was a misdemeanor first.
Thank you.
Again, I'm Sheriff Staley from Lonoke County. I just want to thank everybody for having us and letting us talk today. I want to talk about misdemeanor justice. It's not happening in Arkansas. I want to talk about open beds. Our facility has 150 beds. When I took office in 2013, where there was space, I added beds. It was a 136 bed facility when it originated in 2011. I took office in 13. So in those open pods, we have some closed pods, we have some open barracks, 2 open barracks. So we added some bunk beds. Well, the problem is, I have 126 inmates today. My operational capacity is 130 because of staffing. And that comes back to funding. Because we do lose people to patrol, to state police, to other places. That's always going to happen. We've added jailers every year for the last 10 years. This year we'll add 4 more. We had an A+ rating from Standards just this last week. They love the way we're running our jail. We're very efficient. However, it cost us $85 a day to hold an inmate. Whether it's a misdemeanor or it's a felon, whatever, $85 a day. The state, they're working hard, but they reimburse us $40 a day. We got that up from $28 a day under Governor Hutchinson. We're glad it went from 28 to 32 to 40, but it's still less than half of what it costs us to house them. So currently today, out of 126 inmates, 37 are committed to ADC, CCC, or other state facilities, and we work well with the department, ADC. We work well with getting them out of there. We're on the phone with them. We'll take them wherever they need to go. They just don't have space. So that's 30% of our facility right now that is waiting to go to ADC. We talk about the drug courts. People have to want help before they get it. Some plea out to our PAC program, which is Peers Achieving Collaborative Treatment. It's 74% effective. It's the best in the country right now at a 3-year mark of keeping those offenders who are, I think Mr. Magnus said it best, is they were doing life in prison on installments. And that's what they're doing. They're doing it over and over and over until they get locked up. If they're doing 2 months on a year for a 10-year sentence, that's a problem. They know math, prison math, better than we do. When they get arrested, they get a 10-year sentence, they come back and they tell us, I'll be out in 18 months. They know when they're getting out. That's changing with Protect Arkansas. We appreciate every one of you for that. That will be a deterrent. I've got guys right now that we used to catch with a gun, but they're a felon now, and they would get 5 years probation on felon possession of a firearm. It's 100% now. They're not doing it. You catch them, they might have some drugs, and they're getting rearrested, but they're not carrying those dangerous weapons. In Arkansas, we rank 4th in the country. There's only 3 others ahead of us in violent crime. That's per capita. When our county jails are full, misdemeanor, they're out. There's 143,000 misdemeanor warrants entered into the system today. That's half of what we have. The only misdemeanors we enter into ACIC are violent crimes such as domestic batteries, or those that are done through an affidavit process because you had somebody steal a misdemeanor amount of something from you. They get arrested. Criminal trespass is a big one. They're snooping around to steal stuff. Theft of property. Look, the ones in there for theft of property, they're not stealing just your lawnmower. They're the guys that are in a group going around hitting your houses, going into your cars. That is horrible when you know somebody's went into your stuff while you're asleep in your home, finds your keys because your kid left them in there. They take your car and leave the stolen car in your driveway. There's 10 different stolen cars that night we recovered. 5 in our county. One offense was 5 different stolen cars recovered. They just kept stealing them and dropping them off. Those dudes need to go to prison because they've been arrested 16, 70 times. However, we have a program. That PAC program is working. It was funded through a grant. Hobie had a grant. 11 others started to mimic our program that was working, but those grants from DHS was pooled. There's got to be funding for that. We got space for that. You got to have those guys who want to plea out to that program. They think they're going to get out of jail. But in Arkansas, you can only do 120 days in the county jail on a felony. Now, you can do up to 365 on a misdemeanor, Class A misdemeanor. But they get that 120 days, they do it in our jail. There's a program that goes on. They're getting education. That's what starts stopping recidivism. It starts there. But I don't have the room. I can only put so many in there. While we only have 126 inmates, that leaves us some beds open, right? With 150 beds, operational capacity is 130. We all go over capacity, don't get me wrong. But 150 beds, if we could hold those extra, they have to be felons because they can't house misdemeanors for felons. So there's a problem. I might have open beds, but I can only hold other state inmates. So if Hobie has some, I might take them. It doesn't make us money, but some of our courts thinks it does because there's money coming in. But there sure is a lot more going out. I'll end with that. The overcrowding situation has to be improved. With the county jails the counties adding 3,000 beds over the last 10 years, the counties are doing their part. We're passing the taxes. The people want to be saved. You're passing the legislation to protect them. You guys did that. Protect Arkansas. Thank you for everybody who supported that. But misdemeanor justice is not happening. We arrest them, try to make them bond out. We'll bring them from, we'll say, the end of our county, say it's a 20-mile ride. We'll take them to jail, try to make them bond out. At least they got to walk home. or somebody's gotta come get them. That's what we're doing. It's a shell game. I'll take any questions, these guys will take any questions as well about what we're doing to reduce the recidivism.
Senator King, you have a question?
First off, don't share this, the two of you I've met with personally. And you know, I mean, your input was good because as I keep saying this and people, why I'm so hardened on this issue is 2017, it was clear where this was going. I mean, it was crystal clear. And that's why I filed the bill that if you went to corrections 4 times, you served 80% of your sentence. And the Sheriff's Association at the time went neutral on it because Asa Hutchinson didn't want to touch his budget. That's on video. So that's one of the frustrations I had in 17 was the people that kept saying it, you know, that we needed more money. And I said at the time, we needed to take the Amazon tax, all this internet tax, which they estimated 30, 40 million at that time. Now it's probably over 100 million that we could have done that. And we talk about raising taxes. If we get in a situation with these mega prisons and you get underwater, which this situation with the site prep, as I've said, is underwater right now. I mean, it makes no sense to spend one site location is going to cost you, as Fort Smith said, $250 million to supply the water out there. If you could build a site prep for $50 million, look how much extra money we have. And if we get in these situations like this other states, we're going to be raising taxes later on to try to fund it. We're going to be 6, 7 years down the road. And if you're spending $800 million on a 1,000-bed jail because of the site prep and the sheer incompetence that we've seen, I'm just telling you, we're underwater. We also need the population shift in Arkansas. You know, 8 counties make up half the population. Benton, Washington, Sebastian County, you're contributing 1 out of every 4 inmates to the incarceration rate. I mean, it's significant. So it's going to take money. And the other part is my brother's on the corner court. And I have long advocated is I went into the budget and said, you know what, when I came in, county turnback dollars, and we understand that we send our, you know, unfortunately, we send it to Little Rock and then they deal back out. Well, they have been underfunding our county turnback and city turnback dollars to help create it. If we were at the same percentage as I keep advocating the budget, and that's where these guys are prioritizing money going more to these other programs in county turnback. So if we were at the same percentage when I came in, where we should be at, every county in Arkansas in turnback dollars would get $1.8 million more dollars. I'm telling you, you give $1.8 million to my 6 counties, then they can do a lot with it.
Sure.
So the biggest problem is, in looking at the long term of this thing, is legislature can talk all they want to. 8% of the corrections hurting your county turnback dollars is going to kill us. But we also need the other thing is we talked about, we need an intake facility up here. You look at the cost of transporting prisoners for Benton and Washington County, we need an intake facility up here. We've got to look at a lot of different options rather than this mega prison in this one site location. I'm for extra beds. But Sheriff Runyon, you talked in there that there's land in Sebastian County, and somebody else told me, is that correct, that the county owns, but they could build a jail there, but they're not passing a tax? Is that correct?
They have, I'm sorry, Sebastian County has bought some acres for a future building of a facility, hopefully. But until the public's willing to pass a tax for, like I said, 80 million, that's just a guess. Right now, that's not palatable to them.
Well, if the state could look at that location to do a partner, you know, not a partnership, but look at the facility part, look how much 35 miles of water and sewer is going to cost out to this location. So there's a lot of things that we can do that have to be more economically, because if we get in this situation like these other states, you spent $600-700 million. These consultants don't care like Veneer. They make a percentage. They want the most expensive location because they're going to cash out. In 6-7 years, Veneer will be gone, taking our money, and we're going to be dumped in a situation. That's what I'm trying to avoid. But I can say, Sebastian County, we need to do that. Mental health facilities. We talked about that and what I want to do. And I've talked to the Board of Corrections and Chairman Magnus and some of them about looking at these rural hospitals that are going down. Can we look at a situation? And I'll give you an example, because I don't want this myth thing that I'm against everything. That's the lie that gets told by these people. So if you look at Huntsville, for example, they had an old hospital, was later converted to a nonprofit nursing home. It recently sold to a private care facility for $4 million. You know, a situation like that, and I'm not saying it's going to work out, could have been enclosed. You know, I can tell you Madison County at one time in 17 was interested in a facility. Okay, could have been enclosed, we could have spent $4 or $5 million. That's 105 beds that could have been converted to an intake facility. It's at least an option. And if we don't look at the long-term part of getting county, your money, the county judges and the cities, more turnback dollars, then we're never going to get out of this. They can beat their chest all they want to, but this is all going to take a major consideration of money. But 1.8 million to your budget would be significant in helping you, is that right? Would you turn down 1.8 million if our budget was back to the percentage where I think it should be?
I'll take all the money you want to give me, but it's going to be different for my county as it would one of the larger counties. But yes, that would help everybody.
Yeah.
So,
Do you want to hold state inmates?
No. I do not want to hold state inmates. So that's the problem. What we're looking at is $1.8 million. If it comes back to us, that's a lot of money. But it costs more money to hold a state inmate than it does state county inmates.
And I understand that. You know, it used to be when I came in, a lot of rural counties would use it to help cash flow. The cost of everything's went up where they can't do that anymore. It's not economical. So I agree with, I don't want state inmates in counties, but sometimes economically, if we're looking 8 years down the road on this thing, they'll be lucky to be 1,000 prisoners up there, and we'll be lucky to have 250 people working up there at that one site location.
Senator King, to add, I mean, your sheriffs, we've all talked about this. We don't care where it's built. We don't care if it's 1,000 bed jail 3 different times over. We just know the number is going to increase until it can level off. I believe the numbers will level off because these criminals are not wanting to go to prison for 7 years. But
And I
they know
agree with that.
2 months a year.
But as a state, we can't pick one site location that's going to cost $200 million more, as Fort Smith has said. And you look at Hook-only Center, we can't spend that on any more than you can looking at a county jail facility and tell your voters, oh, well, I can build this one location, it's going to cost, you know, 25 million more, or this other location is going to cost 5 million. We have to look at that because we cannot continue to afford what we're doing and spending. And I can say to you that this thing of this Live Against Everything, I want to see you guys have more county turnback dollars to manage your money. Unfortunately, the legislature continues to underfund that and underfund corrections with money with 8% of the corrections. I'm for corrections this last time, as I said, should have got $130 million more out of general revenue. That's why we're in this location is because of money. That's it. And the only way we're going to do that is try and get money. But we also need an intake facility. I think Benton County, I can talk to you. We need an intake facility up here that would help out. We also have to address mental health in that. And that's why it's so important to get the site location and everything right, because we get underwater like this situation is horribly underwater right now. We've got to get the right, mostly economically, to save money to do money.
All right, Senator King, we're going to cut you off. It's 15-6. Senator Representative Rice, your question. All right.
Thank you guys for being here. That's one thing I want to do is thank y'all. But through the years, every one of you know that we have battled and battled $40, $38, $39, $40, $41 for a prisoner. Okay. Now, let's just take the building and just put it aside and look at the situation that we've got here. We've got $41 a prisoner. And this new facility is going to cost over $85 million a year to run. So, I mean, I can see that if possibly we couldn't, you know, build this, if we could do a grant system, possibly a grant system for you sheriffs to build on. Possibly. Because I know one thing, you can't keep going like this.
The problem is the county jails. The problem is county jails are not made to hold. We're not made to hold felons. County jails weren't built to shoulder the state's prison load. We're spending local tax dollars on that. Even if there was a grant issue, this diverts resources from local needs and undermines our ability to do the misdemeanor justice. If we could do that, we're going to stop some of the recidivism. If we could hold DWI number 2 for 30 days, He may not get that third and fourth, then go to prison. Those that are misdemeanor thefts and trespassing, we can get them and give them 10 days to maybe stop them. It's the broken window theory.
So when the Protect Arkansas law was passed, it was a great thing. We supported it 110% because we knew something had to be done with our violent criminals. I asked for one thing only. Before you build it, before we pass this bill, we've got to have a place to put them. We've got to have a place to put them, because even then we were at 1,800, 1,600. We were holding that many. We couldn't take more. And they assured me that's not going to happen. We're going to pass this bill. We're going to find a place to keep them. We're going to make Arkansas safe. And that's all the sheriffs care about.
Right.
That's all we care about. This is our job. It's their job to keep our citizens safe. And to do that, we've got to lock these violent criminals up. They've got to stay there. We've got to have the room. And I think, listening to everybody talk all day, we're on the same page. Everybody's on the same page. They understand the need, okay? We've been through this 100 times. Everybody understands we need the beds. Now it's a question of how, where, and how we're going to do it. You can't hold them in the state, in our county jails, Representative Rye, because they don't get treatment while they're there. When they're in our county jails, they're just sitting there. You get somebody in your county jail on a 10-year term, they serve, it used to be they only serve 2, correct? They only do 2. So if they sit in our county jail for 1.5 years, almost 2 years, they've done their time with no treatment, no nothing. They go down, turn around, get back out, and probably be back in our facility within the year.
Violent felons
So
aren't allowed to be there.
that's kind of that's why we were excited about the Protect Arkansas. We just got to find a place. And I hope that, I'm going to let Jay talk before we quit, but I hope everybody somehow can get on the same page, because we all have to protect our citizens. That's all of our jobs. It's not just ours. We're the physical guys. You guys are the law guys to make sure it happens. We do what the law says to do, and we need y'all's help. We need you guys to come together somehow and figure this out, where we can lock these people up that need to be locked up. That's what we're asking.
Jay, you have a comment? I'm sorry.
Well, I appreciate all of y'all taking the time to come up here today and listen to us, and this is a very important topic for us sheriffs. Listen, just quickly, I have the second biggest jail in Arkansas, 710 beds. This morning we had 725. The problem is everybody's talked about with county jails is the separation aspect of it. We have so many different classifications we have to separate. For one, we hold men and women. We have to separate those. We have the violent and the nonviolent. We have so many people now that are administratively segregated, that either have mental health issues, or they're violent, or they have incompatibilities with other detainees, that they can't be around other people. So with 166 state inmates in my jail today, I have 125 sleeping on the floor because I don't have enough places to put everybody. So I have people stacked in, 45 people in a 32-bed cell block, because I have a 32-bed block over here that don't have enough people that meet that classification. So if I had my 166 state detainees at the state, I wouldn't have anybody sleeping on the floor. I'd be able to manage my population. We should be at about 80% at the county level of our maximum. So I should be at about 580 for my maximum count. But you all understand that, and I think everybody here seems to be in agreement that we've got to do something, and I appreciate that. It's just that we've got to take some action, and whatever that action is, we've got to get together and agree on getting something done. Thank you all for attending and listening to us.
Gentlemen, thank you all for what you do and for coming today.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you. Now, the county judges, come forward. Each one of you will identify yourself. State which county you're in.
Rusty McMillan, Greene County Judge.
I'm Matt Brumley, I'm the Saline County Judge.
I'm Troy Tucker, the Clark County Judge. And I'm Barry Mooring, Benton County Judge.
Gentlemen, whoever wants to start.
I guess I was tapped for that. Hold on a second.
I didn't get the table, but I got the mic. Need my glasses.
So I want to be extremely brief because I think there's been some really, really good points made here today. And I think a lot of what we would say has been said one way or the other. But I was in a meeting a few months ago, and I was in a meeting with some of our sheriff staff. And I had one of the majors ask me a really pertinent question that I'm still struggling with today. He leaned over and he said, "So what happens when we need all the money?" And it was a really good question, because on the trajectory we're on now in Benton County, with jail costs increasing by 7% a year, there comes a point when the sheriff's office, and particularly the jail, not the sheriff's office patrol, but the jail, they're gonna need it all. And that's something that we really have to contend with. And I think there's been a lot of great points made here today, but I think one that's particularly pertinent for us in the county jail system is this idea of the imbalance between felonies and misdemeanors. You've heard this term, there is no misdemeanor justice. Well, that's true in Benton County. I hate to say that out loud because we're a great county, we have a lot of great counties represented here today. But this is where, as Sheriff Holloway indicated, this is where the system is really breaking down, is that we don't have misdemeanor justice because our jail is full of felons, a significant number of which should be in a state prison. In Benton County, we know we share a lot of that responsibility. We're growing. We've tried to go to voters to get a long-term jail passed. It did not pass. We went with a fairly modest sales tax to do that. We're coming up with some other options, one of which we brought to the legislature this last session, which would simply allow our voters the ability to look at this countywide sales tax we have today and look at how that's allocated. That did not pass, but that might be an option. But we're looking at a lot of options. I've also heard earlier about all the different courts. We've got them. We've got your mental health court, we've got your veterans court. We've got all the different courts and all those kinds of diversion programs. But at the end of the day, the felony population is eating up the budget of Benton County. The entire general fund, 70% of our entire general fund now is taken by law enforcement courts. And the fastest growing part of that is the jail. So I guess I'd come back to with what one of the pleas was earlier. We need more space taken on by the state. I know you guys have a really tough job as to where that space is going to be, prisons, intake centers, whatever the case might be. But at the county level, we better get some relief because we are going to be in a even more difficult situation than we are today. I thank you for your time.
I don't think there's anything that any of us judges could say that hasn't probably already been stated today. I think our primary reason for being here is to support our county sheriffs and the difficult task that they have in managing the inmates that they are inundated with in the county jails. My background is 35 years in law enforcement. 14 of those years was county sheriff, 8 of those was for the city of Hot Springs, and I've been judged now for close to 10. And I can tell you that this issue in 1983, which has already previously been stated, we've been dealing with that since that long, literally. We've talked about misdemeanor justice. As has previously been stated, there really isn't any misdemeanor justice right now. I've had inmates, when I worked for the city of Hot Springs, that I would arrest and literally, I'm telling you, they would literally laugh in your face and tell you, "I'll be out before you get out of the parking lot." And that was true. On the separation of the inmates, I know one of the sheriffs did speak about that a while ago. I think that that's probably something that may be overlooked sometimes because at least in our jail, we had a misdemeanor side and we had a felony side. But even on that felony side, you know, the sheriffs are responsible for separating those inmates from convicted and non-convicted inmates. And something that, you know, you have to take into consideration is when that circuit court issues that order and that paperwork is processed and it says delivered to the Arkansas Department of Correction, the sheriffs lose some leverage over that inmate because at that point, they don't really care. And that creates a tremendous problem for the jail staff having to try to manage that inmate because he knows at that point he's gone. It's just a matter of when we can get him gone. And And that's what this whole point of the conversation is today, is we need them gone sooner than later. So thank y'all. I truly respect everyone's position on this, the Arkansas Department of Correction. I respect y'all's position on it too. I know there's a lot of concern. There should be. You're looking at it from a financial point of, and it should be looked at that way. Just as judges, we have to do the same thing in our counties. But it needs to happen, and it needs to happen soon. So any relief that you can give us, I think we would appreciate that. So thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for having us. I'm going to be as quick as I can. I want to start off by saying just Amendment 55 and 1414-801 prohibit counties from declaring felonies, meaning a felon is a state issue and not a county issue. So fundamentally, this thing just starts off wrong. Fundamentally, it's as wrong as an urgent care center doing open heart surgery. They need to be somewhere that does open heart surgery. We have mentally ill, violent people staying year plus in a county jail. And it just fundamentally, it's wrong. Everything I say, I respect the challenges that you have and have had over the years. It was said earlier, there's upwards of 3,154 beds that have been added over the past 10 years. Again, the county, we're putting out almost one a day on our side over the last decade. Saline County, we needed 160 beds. Currently, our ratio for a county our class is the worst in the state for resident to jail bed ratio. We needed 160 to get close to where we felt like we needed to be. Yet, we will open up 82 beds, which is all that we could afford, which is about $740 per square foot for us to build this 82 bed extension of our jail. $110,000 a bed is what that's causing us. We spoke about the 170,000 unserved warrants, 26,239 of those are felony warrants. If those things could be served, what would that do to our already encumbered system? Cost has been talked about. We get $40. You know, we have to take $2.8 million, to your point, out of our general revenue to subsidize the gap that we have for funding our jail. We already depend on our 6 cities, which we've never done before, in helping fund and pay part on a cost basis for their prisoners, that when they bring them in from their city that they pay, and that gets us about $500,000. We still have to take $2.8 million, which eats up a large portion of any turnback that we get from the states.